The words hit me like a physical slap, but the worst part was the casual ease with which he delivered them. I had just walked out of my annual review, asking for the promotion I had worked myself ragged to earn. My boss, Mr. Thompson, looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're not assertive enough for leadership, Sarah. You need to be tougher, more visible." Translation? I wasn't a man. I didn't argue. I didn't defend my impeccable track record. I just looked at him, nodded, and walked out. But the tears that welled up weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of blinding, white-hot fury. He thought his power was absolute. He thought my quiet demeanor meant I was weak. He thought he could dismiss my contributions and my potential with a lazy, sexist cliché. He made one fatal mistake. He underestimated the quiet ones, because while he continued to sneer, mansplain, and steal my ideas, I was collecting evidence. I was building a case that would not only cost him his job, but force the entire corporation to launch a massive public initiative, an initiative that would ultimately be led by the very woman he deemed not assertive enough. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I'm 27 years old. This is my story of experiencing one of the most common, painful forms of professional disrespect, being denied success, not because of your competence, but because you don't fit a toxic stereotype. If you've ever felt that soul-crushing moment of realization that your hard work is irrelevant because of someone else's prejudice, then you know the desperate need for validation and justice. It's the feeling of having the air knocked out of you, only to have them ask why you aren't breathing louder. For years, I believed in meritocracy. I believed in working harder, documenting success, and letting the results speak for themselves. Mr. Thompson taught me a painful lesson. In a toxic environment, the only thing that speaks louder than results is proof of wrongdoing. If you've ever dreamt of serving justice to someone who discounted your worth, who used lazy discrimination to hold you back, I need you to hit that like button, subscribe, and let's delve into the ultimate quiet takedown of corporate arrogance. So, let's begin. I was a senior project manager at Vanguard Tech, a large, well-known software development firm. I was good at my job, meticulous, organized, and excellent at client relations. My team hit every deadline and exceeded every metric. My goal was the Director of Operations role. My direct supervisor was Mr. Peter Thompson. Thompson was a caricature of the aggressive, old-school executive. He was loud, constantly interrupting, and judged success purely on performative dominance, not actual results. Thompson thrived on making women feel small. He was a master of the subtle, corrosive acts of misogyny that are so hard to pin down. He'd start meetings with, "Let's hear the technical details from the guys," effectively sidelining me and the few other women in leadership. He'd use my ideas, brilliant, researched strategies I'd spent weeks developing, and present them as his own. Or worse, credit them to a junior male colleague with the phrase, "as John was saying." Whenever I tried to push back, he'd give me the cold shoulder, or the classic, "Not now, Sarah. Let me finish." The worst part was the emotional tax. I started second-guessing every word I spoke, wondering if I was too loud, too quiet, too emotional, or not emotional enough. I became constantly tense, my shoulders perpetually tight. Thompson's behavior was forcing me to expend all my energy managing his ego instead of focusing on my work. The denial of my promotion came after 2 years of undeniable success. I walked into his office, ready with my binder full of evidence. The increased revenue, the successful project launches, The team's rave reviews. Thompson didn't look at the binder. He started with vague praise. "You're a great worker, Sarah. Loyal, detailed." And then came the punch. "But the director role requires someone with real gravitas. Someone who commands a room. Frankly, you're not assertive enough. You don't have that killer instinct. We need someone who can go to bat, really dominate the room." He paused, leaning forward, his tone shifting to patronizing concern. "Maybe you could try public speaking classes or join a Toastmasters club. You need to work on your presence." The dismissal was chilling. He didn't deny my results. He denied my gender's fitness for leadership. He was judging me against a tired, sexist template that only rewarded aggression, volume, and male entitlement. My initial reaction wasn't tears, but a sudden, terrifying emptiness. It felt like 7 years of my life had just been wiped out by a single, lazy stereotype. I felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with pure distilled powerlessness. But in that cold, quiet office, something broke free. I realized that my documented success meant nothing to him. The only thing that mattered was proving the real reason for his decision. I walked out of that office and went straight to my cubicle. I didn't touch my work. I opened a private, encrypted folder on my laptop. My determination was no longer about getting the promotion. It was about justice. It was about ensuring that Thompson's prejudice couldn't hurt another woman, another minority, ever again. He wanted proof of my presence. I would give him proof of his toxicity. The plan was simple, meticulous, and entirely based on collecting irrefutable evidence. I purchased a high-quality, voice-activated digital recorder. It was tiny, barely noticeable, and powerful. I started taking it everywhere. I didn't record all day, every day. I only activated it when Thompson was near, or during key meetings where I knew my ideas would be dismissed or stolen. I recorded the meeting where I proposed the Agile X solution, followed 10 minutes later by Thompson saying, "As Bill just cleverly noted, we should try the Agile X concept." The sexist comments. I caught the casual remarks. "The girls in marketing need to stick to the coloring." And "she's probably hormonal today." The interruption. I recorded the moment when I was explaining a complex budget, and Thompson cut me off with the condescending, "Not now, Sarah," and then spent 10 minutes listening raptly to a less experienced male colleague explain the same numbers. My internal dialogue became the voice of a forensic investigator. Collect, corroborate. Silence is complicity, but proof is power. This phase was incredibly stressful. Every interaction with Thompson felt like a performance. My fear of being caught was paralyzing. I would wake up in a cold sweat, imagining him finding the recorder. But that fear was balanced by a fierce, righteous clarity. Every time I listened back to a recording, hearing his smug tone, the way my voice faded when he spoke over me, it hardened my resolve. That feeling of betrayal fueled my focus. I wasn't just recording for me. I was recording for every woman who had ever been silenced, interrupted, or dismissed as not assertive enough. After 3 months, I had a library of evidence, 12 recordings, 3 transcribed documents, and a detailed timeline linking his discriminatory comments to his unfair performance reviews. I knew I couldn't go through the official HR channels. HR often protects the company and the executive status quo first. I needed external pressure. I spent another intensive weekend preparing Malik. The dossier? I synchronized the audio files with the written transcripts and my professional performance reviews, showing the stark contradiction between my metrics and his verbal attacks. Anonymity. I used a VPN, a new email account, and anonymizing software to ensure absolutely no trace could lead back to my workstation or my personal information. The targets. I created two distinct packets, one clinical and legal for HR and corporate legal, and one narrative and dramatic for three major tech business news outlets. My cover letter to the press was sharp and concise. Here is verifiable evidence of systemic, gender-based discrimination at Vanguard Tech, authorized by Senior Director Peter Thompson. The company has protected this behavior for years. I sent both packets simultaneously, late on a Sunday night, ensuring the HR department would find it right before the business reporters started their Monday morning cycle. I pressed send. Just like before, the feeling was quiet, terrifying, and profoundly significant. I had dropped the bomb. I walked into the office on Monday morning, prepared for chaos. The air was thick with tension. Thompson was already gone, called into an emergency, closed-door executive meeting. By Tuesday afternoon, the headlines exploded. Vanguard Tech rocked by discrimination scandal. Recording surface of executive misconduct. The press had gotten hold of the most damning, dramatic audio clips, the stolen ideas, the girls in marketing comment. The story went instantly viral. Social media was flooded with outrage, and the hashtag not assertive enough was trending worldwide. The company was in full damage control mode. The stock dropped slightly. The pressure was intense, and it was entirely focused on the man who thought he was untouchable. On Wednesday, the official email went out. Peter Thompson is no longer employed by Vanguard Tech, effective immediately. The company strongly condemns all forms of discrimination and is launching a comprehensive, independent investigation. Thompson was gone, fired, publicly disgraced. He was not only unemployed, but his name was forever linked to a major discrimination scandal, effectively banning him from any reputable firm in the sector. I saw a subtle look of shock on the faces of my male colleagues, followed by a sudden, intense, new respect. They knew I was the one who had been denied the promotion. They didn't know I was the one who pulled the trigger, but they knew what this meant. The real payoff came 2 weeks later. The company's desperation to salvage its image was palpable. They needed a swift, credible, and highly visible change. I was called into the CEO's office, the very office Thompson used to frequent. The CEO, pale and frantic, offered me an immediate promotion, Director of Strategy, the role I originally wanted. I sat there, calm and measured. "I appreciate the offer," I said, my voice steady. "But the Director of Strategy role is administrative. The problem here is structural." I outlined a comprehensive plan for cultural change, internal reporting, and accountability. I pitched a new role, Head of Diversity and Inclusion Initiatives, reporting directly to the CEO. The CEO, recognizing the strategic genius and necessity of my proposal, agreed immediately. My new mission was to dismantle the very culture that had tried to silence me. The ultimate irony was complete. I was now Thompson's former boss's boss, with a mandate to eliminate his kind of prejudice. The company held a major press conference to announce the new initiative and, of course, the appointment of the new head of D&I. I stood at the podium, the ultimate position of visibility and authority that Thompson claimed I couldn't handle. The cameras flashed, blinding and bright. I looked straight into the lens, knowing that Thompson was likely watching from his home. "Change doesn't start with power," I stated, my voice clear and amplified, commanding the room without shouting. "Change starts with proof. It starts with seeing the truth and having the courage to act on it." I didn't need to smile victoriously. My presence, my title, and the entire public apology the company was forced to issue was the victory. The satisfaction was absolute, clean, and entirely earned. I was not only promoted, I became the architect of the cultural revolution that swept away my oppressor. My life changed completely. I moved from feeling constantly small and underestimated to being a visible, central agent of change. Leading the D&I initiative was challenging but rewarding. I ensured that the new policies weren't just token gestures. They were systemic changes that protected employees, especially women and minorities, from the kind of subtle, corrosive discrimination Thompson perfected. The lesson I learned is crucial. When they attack your character or your capacity with empty stereotypes, don't defend your character. Weaponize their words. Don't try to prove you're assertive enough on their terms. Prove their prejudice on your terms with evidence. I was denied a promotion because they thought I was weak and quiet. I succeeded because I was meticulous, patient, and chose documentation over confrontation. I realized that the most powerful acts of resistance are often the most quiet ones. Thompson thought he could silence me. Instead, he handed me the microphone and the executive budget to make sure his voice was never heard in that company again. If this story resonated with you, if you felt that deep satisfaction of systemic justice being served, please smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. I share more stories about overcoming professional adversity and fighting for fairness. I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, what is the most powerful piece of advice you've ever received about navigating toxic or discriminatory workplaces? Hit that notification bell to join our community. And always remember, if they won't give you a seat at the table, just change the menu.